Hello, my name is Adriana Marino, and I am host and producer of Bend into Balance, powered by The Source. Today, I'm really excited to be accompanied by John O'Sullivan. John created Changing the Game Project in 2012. He's written 6 books, and he's a global speaker on youth sports, mental health, parenting, leadership, human development, and resilience. And he's been in Bend, I understand, roughly 20 years. John, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me on. It's so nice to sit down and bend and do a podcast.
Yeah, you can probably give me a few lessons of yourself having
I,
would you your
I
from
could
you
just tell you all the things I screwed up over the years.
yeah. Impressive. You said you have almost recorded 500 episodes for your podcast.
Yeah, it's been a crazy journey. I think we started not at the beginning, but when people were there wasn't as many as there are now,
Yeah.
and so it's been a really, really fun journey. Just get to talk to so many fascinating people. Like I was blogging a lot back then, so this is 2017.
Uh-huh.
People don't really want to talk to you for a blog, but when you're like, hey, you want to just sit down and chat for an hour or a bit, and they're like, wow, that'd be lovely.
Yeah.
And so I've gotten to interview some of the most fascinating people in the sports realm and psychologists and authors and everything. It's been lovely.
That's awesome. Yeah, there's so much learning. That's definitely what keeps me here every
So
week
much. Yeah, so much.
and sharing these incredible stories.
Yeah.
Well, tell us about your story. How did you get in? I mean, I know you're an athlete since a young age. You're a coach.
Mhm.
And that is kind of what led you into creating Changing the Game project, but why don't you tell us a little bit about
Yeah.
yourself, please?
So I was an athlete growing up. I grew up in New York, Long Island, and I'm 54. So growing up at that time, you played lots of different sports and seasonally, and there wasn't this big hurry to like do more at younger and younger ages. So I played a lot with my friends and uh, got serious in high school. I went to a big Catholic high school, and I remember showing up for soccer tryouts my freshman year, and there was 90 freshmen trying out. Like, whoa, maybe I need to like focus more on this one that I love the most. Um, so yeah, and played Division I college soccer at Fordham University, and played a little bit of professional soccer after for about 2 years, and then got into coaching because I loved the mountains, I loved skiing, and I loved soccer, and I wanted to do both. So I got a coaching job at University of Vermont where I could
Okay.
do it all,
Uh-huh.
and did that for 4 years, and then got into more youth coaching and moved to Bend in 2006 and helped. I was the first employee of the club, which is now Bend FC, and then also helped start Apex FC.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah,
Club soccer is big here in Bend.
everything's big in Bend, I think.
It's ironic being such a small city at the same
It
time.
is. It's one of the struggles with Bend is like a lot of people come here for the reasons of outdoor and camping and all this great stuff that Bend can offer and skiing. And then they get sort of pulled into, oh, well, what in Seattle or in Portland or in San Francisco or wherever I moved from, this is what sports was like, which isn't
Oh,
really
yeah.
like healthy for kids. And it was always like, hey, you didn't move here to spend every weekend at some soccer tournament in Portland or Boise or whatever. Like, I hope you moved here so that you could camp on the weekend and live in the outdoors and your kids could ski or ski race or free ride or whatever. And so that's a challenge because it's very
Right.
hard in the sports world, you know, there's just not enough kids and not enough here to turn it into a big city program.
Mhm.
And yeah, it can be a struggle.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
So how did Changing the Game project begin? Did the
Whew.
inception of this project happen through your work here in Bend, through the club sport of
Yeah, I
soccer?
was running I was running a club. It was Rush Soccer at the time, and my own kids were 5 and 6, and they were starting to notice that dad was always at practice and never home for dinner. And Um, I was a little burnt out from it. I'd been doing it a long time, and so I just decided to step away and wasn't quite sure what I was going to do. I had always wanted to write a book, and so I wrote this book called Changing the Game. And really, at that time, my idea was, hey, I've coached a lot of kids. I've sent kids that I've coached who have played professionally in Europe, and they've gone to Youth World Cups and made national teams. And maybe I can share with parents what I've seen usually works and what doesn't work. And
Mhm.
so I did the research and writing for this book called Changing the Game. And it was really interesting because the what I've learned is it's actually not that hard to write a book. It's
Uh-huh.
really hard to sell a book,
Okay.
get it in front of people,
That makes sense.
right? As I
Mhm.
imagine it is with films or anything else. And
Yes.
so the publisher was like, yeah, how are you gonna sell it? You should start a blog. And so the blog became and changing the game, which is the name of the book,
Uh-huh.
.com, .net, and .org were all taken. So I needed something else. And they said, well, it's like a project. You want people to help you out. So that's how Change the Game project was
Okay.
born.
I got it.
And the blog, because I like to research, the blog became very popular with a lot of sport governing bodies. So I had
Mm.
U.S. Olympic Committee and volleyball and ice hockey and soccer and all them sharing the writing and the research I was doing around sports specialization and intrinsic and extrinsic motivation and all the sort of things that were the mythology that was kind of in this trend of ruining youth sports for kids.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, the blog led to TED Talk in 2014 and podcast in 2017. And now, yeah, we just published book number 6. I call it
Wow.
book number 5 because
Yeah.
one of them is really short. So
Uh-huh.
it's more of a booklet.
Okay.
But
So how did this begin? What made you realize that something had to change?
I was at um, my daughter's like 5, 6-year-old soccer game. And like anyone who's been to 6-year-old soccer knows it's a giant blob of kids and they chase the ball around and sometimes someone dribbles it too far and everyone
Mhm.
goes, nice pass. And it wasn't a pass. They just dribbled it too far. And um I was at this thing and it was just lovely. Like everyone's positive. Coaches are great. The parents are great.
Yeah.
And right next door there was this 10-year-old competitive boys game. And the coaches are yelling and screaming, and the parents are yelling at screaming, and everyone's yelling at the ref who's like 12. And
Yes.
I'm like, oh my God, like what is happening here? And is anyone on my field saying, oh, that's what we want in 4 years, right? Like,
Right.
let's go there so that our kids can have less fun and we can spend more time and money. And that's when I decided, like, oh, maybe I can contribute to making the environment better.
Yeah.
And so that was how the idea was born. And oh, maybe I'll just write a book and
Uh-huh.
all that. And yeah, and so yeah, that's so it's just crazy what it's become. And
Yeah.
my friends who have been friends all along are like, I remember in the beginning, you were like, I don't know what's going to happen here. I don't know if this is going to work. Or,
Uh-huh.
but I felt at that time that if you use the analogy of a wave, like the wave was like breaking, where people were going to be looking for more information about how to give their kids a better experience,
Mhm.
and that maybe I could contribute to that and be one
Sure.
of the first people on that wave. And I kind of was.
Wow. That's what I was going to ask you. Were you really creating this space yourself? Were you a pioneer in realizing that
There was
parents
some.
were getting way too involved in youth
Yeah,
sports?
I think so. And if you think about that time, right, that was the advent of social media, 2011,
Okay.
2012,
Uh-huh.
2013. And so you could write a blog post and, in the beginning, I had like 10,000 Facebook followers, and I could write a blog post and post it, and the organic reach would be hundreds of thousands of
Oh,
people.
wow.
And
Uh-huh.
in my first blogs, my mom read them,
Yeah.
right? But then I wrote one that got like 10,000 Facebook shares, and then I got one that got 50, and then I got one that got a million,
Wow.
and it was crazy. So I hit sort
Mhm.
of the heyday of that.
Got it.
And I was writing, I was blogging every week, and did the book, and then, started doing a lot of speaking at schools and
Yeah.
sports clubs and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Why do you think your message has resonated so well, not only in the United States, but outside as well?
I think people who are raising kids now are like, this isn't what it was like when I was younger, right? And it's amazing how many professional athletes I've crossed paths with, people who played in the NHL or NFL or whatever.
Mhm.
And they're like, this is not what it was like playing youth ice hockey for me or
Right.
whatever. And so I think it's like this really interesting, um, how can I say? Just I felt like like I never got on an airplane,
Mhm.
and if I sat next to you and said, "Oh, this is what I do," no one ever. I said I go to schools and I do coach education and parent education and
Mhm.
try to like put a little more play back in sports. No one's ever said to me, "Oh, that's dumb."
Right.
Every single person's like, "Oh my God, you should come to my kid's school."
Yeah.
Everyone's crazy, right? And so I always knew that if I could get the word out there, that this is what people were looking for
Got it.
sure.
Uh-huh. Why do you think there was a shift between, your generation and your children's generation, for example? Like, what's happened? Why
I
have
mean,
people
couple
got
things, right?
Mhm.
Number one, just the world has shifted, right? I think it was I read in this wonderful book once that in 1994 the word playdate entered the Webster's dictionary.
A play
Right.
date?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
playdate,
Okay.
right? So when I was growing up, right, it was like you walked out on your block and your parents knew you were at one of 5 houses and you were
Yes.
gone and be home for dinner,
That's
right?
how it was
Yeah.
when I was
Yeah,
young, for sure.
exactly. So then I was like, that wasn't happening anymore. And so as, more women entered the workplace that weren't watching kids, that we needed someone to watch the kids. And now as soon as that was organized, well, why not hire someone to be in charge of it and all
Mhm.
sorts of stuff. So I think that was part of it. And then you had, this mythology, the Tiger Woods hitting a golf club at 2.5 years old and the Williams sisters and all this, right?
Yeah.
Great athletes and fantastic. But everyone said, oh, well, I want to do that with my kid.
Uh-huh.
Right. And then as things like college entry has gotten more competitive and college has gotten more expensive, people say, oh, well, I'll just get my kid a scholarship to
Sure.
pay for college, which is very unrealistic um, in terms of the percentage, in terms of the amount of money people spend hoping that they might get this. So I think all these factors came
Uh-huh.
together. Um, and then there was a lot of, just businesses of sport as sports shifted from town teams and volunteer board of directors and volunteer coaches to more professionalized. And
Mhm.
that's driven like much better levels of coaching and
Yeah.
coach education and things, but it's also driven costs up
Sure.
and commitments up. And
Yeah.
I build a hockey rink. I can't just say, hey, play hockey for 5 months. I need to pay for the ice all summer long. So now I got to run summer hockey and spring hockey and speed skating camps and all these different things. And I think all these things came together. And then, we have the opportunity to compare our kids to everyone else their age in the world
Mhm.
and be like, oh my God, what's wrong with my DNA? Let me try to fix that. And so
Yeah.
I think all these things come together.
Uh-huh.
And, I wish, people ask me a lot like, oh, has it gotten better since you? No,
It hasn't gotten better?
no, it's just gotten worse, sadly. I
Really?
thought COVID might have made it better.
Uh-huh.
I think people are more informed,
Yeah.
but I think so many parents feel very helpless to do anything about it because the system just says, well, if you want to do this at 12, you have to do this at 10. If you want to do this at 10, you have to do this at 8. And it's very hard to dip in and out of the system for all but the very best athletes. And then sort of the in-town leagues, people just leave them very young. And so all the good athletes move into club sports. And if you have you're like, oh, we want multi-sport and the rec league. And then you look around and you're like, my kid's bored.
Uh-huh.
There's just all these things have come together. It's really hard.
So what are the risks for the kids of having parents that are pressuring them too much? What's at stake with your project?
Yeah. So what we know is that like it's called the three critical ingredients of someone doing any achievement activity. So this would be music, this would be art, this would be
Yeah.
anything. So
School.
I'll talk
Right.
school.
Mhm.
Is that you need the ingredients. You need to enjoy what you do,
Mhm.
right? So enjoyment, need ownership, and those two things breed intrinsic motivation. And intrinsic motivation is the fuel.
Yes.
So what happens is, well-intentioned parents, and I would fight this with my own kids, right? You're like, oh, but if you just did this, you'd be great. You take away ownership a lot.
Okay.
The question I get a ton at parent talks is people go, when's it supposed to stop being fun and start being competitive? And the answer to that's never. You talk to professional athletes, they love what they do
Yeah.
and they enjoy what they do. And professional coaches like, I got to make this enjoyable. Steve Kerr, the Golden State Warriors, has been on our podcast, and the number one core value of the Warriors is joy. Like we get to play basketball for a living.
Yeah.
And so a lot of parents think that's this. We got to stop this being fun, and we got to be serious. And I'm gonna take it, and I'm gonna take you on this journey. And they feel all this outside pressure to do it, and a lot of fear. Fear of missing out, fear of letting my kid down, not giving him the best opportunities, and all those things really just drive this decision making that's made from love.
Mhm.
It comes from a good place.
Yeah.
Um, and then at 14, their kid goes, "Yeah, I don't want to do this anymore because actually you wanted me to do it. And I've missed too many birthday parties and spent too much time in the car. And I just want to be a kid.
Yeah.
And if I'm a kid growing up in Bend, Oregon, I just want to ski in the winter. I just want to, fish. I just want to paddle. I just want to do all these other things, bike that I
Mhm.
can do. And I haven't been able to do. So now I'm going to stop." And parents like, "Wait, whoa, what happened there?"
Yeah.
Because they see what you could be. Kids are like, "Yeah, but that's not what,
I
that's what
want.
you want me to
Right.
be." Yeah.
Mhm. So you're still seeing a high desertion in s- youth sports because of this pressure?
Yeah, I mean, we still have very high dropout rates and sort of that adolescence, middle school into high school for
Uh-huh.
numerous reasons,
Sure.
right? Kids narrow down sports, they get jobs, they get boyfriends, girlfriends, school gets harder.
Yeah.
So there's plenty of reasons that people move on.
Mhm.
Um, and I think it's fine when a kid moves on. They're like, but sport was this incredibly powerful, positive impact in my life. And now it's not,
Yeah.
you know, and so too many kids leave and go, "That was terrible. I got bullied by a coach. Terrible team dynamics. My parents spent a lot of money. I didn't get anything out of it except soccer skills or hockey skills or baseball skills.
Mhm.
And now I'm done." And so the dropout's a big thing. In December, I got to testify before the U.S. House of Representatives, which was
Uh-huh.
super cool.
Why? Tell us about
They
that.
did their first ever hearing on youth sports
Oh, really?
and why kids are dropping out and what they can do. And there's in a lot of places, I don't know that it's hit Bend yet or Central Oregon yet. There's a lot of private equity money coming into youth sports, and so private equity um, is all about shareholder value. So a private equity company, their job is to buy into a business and extract as much value for their shareholders in a 5 to 7 year window frame. That doesn't align with the needs of children
No.
in sports, right? The children all of a sudden become commodities. And so in a lot of places, what you have is private equity owns the club,
Uh-huh.
the ice rink, the tournaments that the teams then have to go to, stay to play hotels, things like that. And all of a sudden, it just becomes this closed system. And there's been some lawsuits. There was Varsity Brands got knocked out.
Uh-huh.
They basically, if you wanted to be a cheerleader,
Yes.
you had to join a Varsity Brands club to go to a Varsity Brands event to do all this, and they basically became a monopoly. And
Wow.
so it's
This
happening a lot in like ice hockey and stuff like
um
that. A little bit in soccer.
yeah.
But this is just what we have to, so anyway, that's what the hearing was about. And it's actually very bipartisan. It was nice to testify for Congress, and
Sure.
didn't matter what side of the aisle people were on, they all agreed.
Yeah, I can
They're all like, yeah, like, why is it
This
we
should
making sports more expensive and harder to
Right.
access for kids? So yeah.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. What you described sounded more like the professional level, not at age 5 to age 10,
Ex
12.
ex exactly,
Wow.
exactly. So yeah, it was really cool.
So what does healthy parenting look like, in terms of sports? Like what should parents be doing in order because sports can maybe we should take a step back. Like why do sports as a kid? Like what's the value of team sports?
It's such a great
Sports.
question, and it seems like an obvious question, right? But I think what people should realize is that sports is neither good nor bad,
Uh-huh.
right? And in my first book, I had this great quote. This guy, Rainier Martins, he said, "Sports like a double-edged sword, and swung in the right direction, it can be incredibly positive, and swung in the wrong direction, it can be incredibly damaging physically, mentally, emotionally.
Yeah.
And that sword is swung by the adults.
Uh-huh.
And so we need the adults, the parents, the coaches, the league administrators to make decisions based on the needs, values, and priorities of children.
Right.
and not the needs, values, and priorities of the business. And so that is, I think, the biggest thing. So I think as a parent,
Uh-huh.
one of the things I advise is begin at the end, right? So realizing that 97% of athletes don't go playing beyond high school, right?
Right.
It's a very small percentage that play in college. And then, you know, those who play in college, it's
Yeah.
infinitesimal who might make a living from it.
Right.
Um, what's the purpose of, like, you should answer this for yourself and your family. What's the purpose of sports in our children's life? And no one's going to say, oh, well, I hope they, tear their ACL twice and get 2 concussions and get bullied and abused and whatever. Because we know that when kids drop out of sports in adolescence, a lot of times they don't ever come back to it. So they become inactive for life.
Uh-huh.
And so if the goal is, I want my kids to be active for life, I want them to be healthy adults, healthy human beings, then, uh, okay, well, then if that's what I want at 24,
Right.
how do I work that back to my 8-year-old?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I want them to have a multi-movement childhood and not just pick one activity. And then once they have that multi-movement childhood, I want to find organizations and coaches as much as I can that match the values of our family and what's important to us. And I want to teach my kids things through sport. I want them to learn resilience. I want them to learn discipline. I want them to learn to do hard things, because in life you do hard things and it doesn't get easier. You know
Mm-hmm.
that. I know that. Um, and then, what's my role in it, right? Well, I'm the guide. I've been through life. I can give perspective, but it's not my journey, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my kids get one childhood.
Yeah.
Like, let that belong to them.
Yeah.
It's not mine.
Mm. I found very powerful the message in your TED Talk that I saw last night, that I was surprised it has over 500,000
Oh,
views.
that's good. Awesome.
Yeah,
I
it
haven't
had
looked in a
a
long
couple
time.
of ads came on as
Oh,
well.
good.
So it's a very widely seen um, video on YouTube. And you talk in your podcast and your TED Talk, I love watching you play.
Yeah.
And that was kind of your message to
The
parents.
idea worth sharing, as
Yeah.
they say.
Can you
Yeah.
tell us about that?
And it's
Like,
not original.
okay.
I even talk in the talk. I heard
Mhm.
a great, teacher, mentor named Bruce Brown say it.
Yeah.
But let's go back. I mean, Bruce Brown didn't make it up either, right? I think it's in the Bible,
Okay.
right? Like, love your kids,
Sure.
respect them,
Of course.
honor the fact that they're out there trying something hard and competing. And so it was funny when I did my TED Talk, it was about 2 weeks out. I
Mhm.
had all the information and I recorded my voice over, some PowerPoint slides. And I sent it to my mom, and my mom had a lovely way of telling you were kind of full of it. She was like, it was great, lots of information, but I don't know what you're telling me to do. Right. And I was like, darn it.
She's a good critique.
She was a great critique. And
Uh-huh.
so it was like, give people something to do. And so that idea we're sharing is, what, we have problems with early specialization. We have problems with dropout. We have kids losing ownership of the experience. We have kids, finding that the ride home is their worst memory of sports or
Yeah.
whatever. How can we change that? Like, just start with, when your kids are done, tell them, I love watching you play. I love
Yeah.
watching you compete. And if you do that, just start there and
Yeah.
you'll see good things happen. You'll see
Yeah.
kids like their face lights up and
Mhm.
whatever. And this isn't anything, right? My son's a wildland firefighter here in Central Oregon. And, just this morning, right? Today's day 9 in a row of 12-hour days,
Oh,
right?
wow.
And I was just like, man, I'm just super proud of you.
Yeah.
Like, I love what you're doing. You're working so hard, and it means a ton to me. And,
Yeah.
and you just, like, you see him light up, right?
Yeah.
And he's 19.
Yeah. Imagine the power of these words for a 9-year-old. Yeah.
Power. But a lot of people are like, that's silly. It doesn't make sense. And
Yeah.
the stories I get, after 6 months after I did a talk at their school or whatever, they'll be like, I thought that was kind of dumb. And or just like too simple. And how,
Uh-huh.
oh my God, it's changed my relationship with my kid. And it's made my viewing more enjoyable.
Yeah,
It's made my kids' experience more enjoyable. And just let the car ride belong to them. And if they want to talk about it, I will. But if not, who cares? And, because it goes by really fast.
it
You have
does.
kids growing up and you blink your eyes and you're at their last game or their last practice. And
Yeah,
it's pretty crazy.
yeah. How can, healthy skills in sports translate later in life, in the workplace, in relationships, in communities? Like, what can we learn from sports? Especially, how can kids, hone these skills from an early age, hopefully in a healthy competition?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, why, what's the value of
I
sports?
mean, tons, right? I think number one, it's like we talked about discipline, doing hard things, sticking to a task that, in this age of instant gratification,
Yeah,
it takes a long time to get good at something.
it does.
And it's good to learn patience. Um, Obviously, from a physical standpoint, people who are active and do that lower healthcare costs. They do better in school, less likely to do drugs, and also very likely to raise athletic children or active children of
Yeah,
their own. Um, you know, I mean, there's so many different character traits that come from sports. I think as well, even kids who gravitate, I know you've had rock climbers on here,
mm-hmm.
but teams are a really important part even in individual sports. And we get to be part of teams our whole life, right? We
Right.
have, our family, our community, our church, our business team. We work in teams all the time. Like learning how to be a great teammate and how
So important.
selflessness
Yeah.
and service to others, learning how to lead, learning how to follow. I mean, sports is a microcosm for life, and
Mm-hmm.
it's such a great way to just I always say it's like getting reps, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you go to the gym and you get reps on the weights. And the way you get good at something is getting a lot of reps.
Yeah.
And as parents, sometimes our love of our kids, when we see them struggling, we steal the reps, and we got to not do that.
Yeah.
And what a great place to learn failure and disappointment. 'Cause it doesn't really matter that you lost the 11-year-old soccer game. So what did you learn from this? Why is this a good thing? Just teaching your kids that, and then they become this sort of even keeled person who doesn't see their intrinsic value tied up in, did I win?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your words are reminding me of Natty Perullo,
Hmm.
who I interviewed here in this space just 4 days ago. And Natty is the U.S. national champion under 19 in bouldering.
Hmm.
I think fourth in lead climbing,
Hmm.
and he hopes to make the Olympics in 2028. And he won his first national at age 9. And one thing that impressed me so much about talking with him is that he has really been his own coach this entire time. I mean, he does speak about Coach Mike with great respect and admiration at Ben Endurance Academy, but he spoke so much about how he's so intrinsically fueled to be such a great climber.
Yeah.
He talked about his own obsession with climbing, and that he talked about, the sacrifice he makes being in the gym by himself for hours a day, five
Yeah.
times a week, missing out on a lot of social stuff. But nobody's pressuring him to do it. It's all comes from within.
Yeah.
And it's just really impressed me. And even he was the national champion last year, but the year before he lost, and he was so moved by his loss that
Mhm.
just forced him to, just kind of promoted him to, train and train and train and even harder. He was able to kind of flip that loss as into something positive, right?
Yeah. I've
To,
heard like lots of make failure your fuel,
yeah,
right? Like that's your fuel. And if your kid isn't doing that, right?
uh-huh,
If they're just like, whatever,
yeah,
they're probably not going to be as good as the kid who does.
right,
And I think there's a nature component to that
uh-huh,
and a nurture component to that. Um, but I mean, he's the perfect example of it's intrinsic motivation because he loves to climb and it's his journey and not his parents and not his coaches. And I know Coach Mike, and he's a wonderful guy, and he's the type of guy that I would love to coach my kids,
Uh,
like that sort of person who's really in it for the human being in front of him is such an important quality. And so I think that's and again, there's nothing wrong when your kid is not that driven.
right.
Like he's a unicorn,
Yeah.
right? That's not normal. Kids that I've had on my podcast, local Bend kids, Campbell McKean, Slater DeBrun, right? Professional baseball player, national champion swimmer. They talk about the same thing,
Hmm.
right? No one, forced them to get up at 5 in the morning and go swim. No one forced them to skip the dance and go to the weight room or whatever. That was them. And their parents were not pushy, but sort of just supporters of
Right.
that. Like, okay, this is your goal. This is your dream. We're going to do our best to support you on that. But it's not our dream. And we love you no matter what. And if it doesn't work out, we still going to love you. And I think that's a very common theme with the best of the best
Hmm.
of that the motivation is extrinsic and intrinsic. And when it's not, kids comply when they're young. You know this, I know
Yeah.
this, but eventually they push back.
Yeah.
And I feel like the saddest moment in sports is when you watch like Olympic gymnastics
Uh
and
huh.
you see these incredible athletes and they pan to the crowd and they're like, oh, her dad's not here because he's got a restraining order against him. It's like, was that worth it that your kid made the Olympics but hates you and doesn't want to see you ever again? Like, of course not, right? And so these are the things that I think we have to understand is just let it be your kid's journey and be their supporter, let them drive the bus. You're a passenger.
Yeah.
And yes, you have financial commitments and driving commitments and things like that, but let it be their dream and their journey. And when they pivot to something else, make sure that, well, what'd you learn from this that's going to carry on the rest of your life if the sport's not going to work out?
Right.
Yeah.
Mm. What has you're speaking about coaching, Coach Mike and other great coaches. Like, what does a good coach look like for these young
You know,
athletes?
so I can't answer for you who's your best coach or what was it about him or her, because a lot of times this depends on a stage of life that you're in, right?
Okay, good point. Yeah.
But what I will say in my very informal research, so I do a ton of coach education,
Hmm.
and when I do it, and in leadership stuff too. And when I do this, I'll ask people, write down, I'll hand them sticky notes. And I'll say, write down the 5 qualities of the best coach you ever had.
Yeah.
I'm like, if you never had a good coach, who was your best teacher or
Uh
something?
huh.
And then we'll put them up on a wall. And one wall we'll put all the sticky notes that have to do with like knowledge of the sport
Hmm.
or the subject matter. And on the other wall, we'll put everything that has to do with relationships and
Hmm.
emotional intelligence. And 90% of the sticky notes are on the relationship wall,
I believe that.
because leadership and mentorship is all about relationships. And so the best coaches are masters of the relationship game. And they're not perfect, but they're constantly realizing that if I form strong relationships, or as Teddy Roosevelt says, right, no one cares how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yeah.
And that's the key. And the problem in most coach education is that we spend 90% of coach education time on the knowledge wall.
Hmm.
Yet I've never, ever once in every sport from ice hockey to rugby to Aussie rules football to soccer, golf, tennis, you name it, have ever had a wall that's even 50-50. It's always relationships.
Wow.
And so when we talk about, well, what makes a great coach,
Uh huh.
it's the relationship piece. Now, knowledge is the foundation. You have to know what you're talking about.
Sure.
Um, but effectiveness is determined by relationships.
So, what are those attributes of a solid relationship?
Communication skills. So good listener, good communicator, like caring. I mean, the key to coaching is love, right? Not weird love, but like deep care for a human being in front of you.
Yeah.
That's every coach we've talked to, Hall of Famers, NCAA champions, household names, Phil Jackson, Steve Kerr, Brad Stevens. We just had the coach of the San Jose Sharks on. We've just had the Stanford women's golf coach just won her 4th national championship. And, they all talk about love,
Yeah.
leading with love,
I
right?
believe it.
So it's caring, it's communication. One of the ones that's really important for people to understand is a lot of people put demanding, right? Like they're hard on me.
Mhm.
So it's not about being easy
Right.
or letting people slide by. No, they saw something in me and they pushed me and they asked me.
Being firm.
So this is not being soft.
Right.
This is being firm, but
Mhm.
firm with love,
Yeah.
right? Not firm through fear.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are really the big ones, and of course, again, knowing what you're talking about is huge. And then when you wrap it in care and love and good communication and fairness and fun, God forbid, um, that's when people are like, that's the person who changed my life.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a special coach, John, that really?
When I think of it, I go back. I mean, the one I think of often was like one of my first coaches.
Uh-huh.
And he was wonderful. He was a teacher. He was a PE teacher. And he taught me soccer and he also taught me to play golf.
Mm-hmm.
And he was just a wonderful teacher. And he had this wonderful, his big, deep, booming voice, which could have been scary, but it wasn't scary. And he just, he made it fun, but he taught you things. He used the appropriate language for the age you are and things like that. And he was just, his name was Tom Bright. And he's the one I think of very often and made me fall in love with sports. Yeah.
That's lovely. Yeah, it's so important to have those type of mentors in our lifetime.
Yeah. Yeah. His son was on my teams, which was very common back
Oh,
then, right?
yeah.
So anyway, I remember when I wrote my first book and talked about Tom Bright as coach, and his son read it and he's like, oh my God, my dad, because his dad had passed away at that
Oh,
point, and he was like,
yeah.
oh my God, I can't believe,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah.
Yeah. How has all your work, to coaching, teaching others, the global speaking you're doing, the writing the books, how has it made you reflect as a coach, as a parent, and how have you evolved as a coach? I'm sure, get.
Tons. Yeah, such a different coach as I was when I was in my 20s. um Far from perfect, but I think um realizing how much the relationship with kids mattered and helping them, that you're coaching the person and not the sport.
Yeah.
Um, as a parent, I think if I hadn't done this work and research, I would have definitely pushed my kids into things that they didn't really love to do. And so again, both my kids grew up here in Bend. They did the Mighty Might skiing and all mountain kids, and they learned to ski. And then at 10, everyone goes to MBSEF and goes up every weekend and does that. My kids did not want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so many parents like, oh, but if you just ski raced for 2 years, you'd be so much better. And
Yeah.
I didn't do it because I was immersed in this type of research and work. I was like, no, that's not what I want. And I love to ski,
Mm-hmm.
and no one in my family skis. And I turned out an okay skier and ski all over the world because I love it. And it was my journey. And I'm like,
Yeah.
if I can just let this be my kids' journey,
Yeah.
they'll probably be fine. And lo and behold, my daughter is now, taught skiing at Mount Bachelor for 3 years. And, my son's an avid snowboarder and to University of Utah. And, it's their thing. And it was
Mhm.
like, sort of went through this lull where I really wanted them to be up there with me, but I didn't make them do it. And then all of a sudden by high school, when their friends started going, and then they wanted to be up there more, and then they were good and competent, and then all of a sudden it'd be a powder day and they'd be like, Dad, can I cut school today and go skiing? And
Yeah.
I'm like, of course you can. And so I think that's just like a perfect example of would not have done that. I would have thought, you're going to do this and you're going to do this. And
Yeah.
I'm going to make you go to the kickback wall if you want to be good at soccer.
Mhm.
You know, my daughter would be like, Dad, I want to play college soccer. And I'd be like, what do you think someone who's 12 or 13 and wants to play college soccer is doing right now? Oh, they would probably be practicing on their own. Great. Well, you need to go practice on your own. And
Yeah.
I can come out there with you once in a while, but you have to do this.
Yeah.
And 2 or 3 days later, she wouldn't be doing it anymore. I'm like,
Uh-huh.
okay. And then finally, she's like, you know what? I don't think I wanted that. And that's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You can do all these other things. But someone who's going to go play in college, they're going to be working on their own. And you love to surf the river and you
Yeah.
love to do all this other stuff, which is wonderful.
Yeah. It seems like you've raised very active kids.
Very, thank God. Yeah, yeah. Like they both have their own very much outdoorsy and
Mm-hmm.
love to do stuff. And my daughter loves to teach, right? She loves teaching skiing. And
Yeah.
we just ran this big 30-person 4-day retreat in the mountains of Colorado. And I brought my daughter along. It was coaches ranging in age from 30 to 75, NCAA champions, coaches from Big Ten schools, down to high school coaches and athletic directors and everything. But I
Wow.
brought my daughter
Yeah.
because I'm like, someone needs to represent Gen Z.
Uh-huh.
Someone needs to speak for your generation.
Yeah.
We start talking about kids these days or
Right.
whatever. And so, yeah, it was wonderful to have her there as part of my work. And yeah, she led the 6 a.m. river cold plunge every day.
That's great.
I was not going to do that.
Yeah. It seems like you've created your own team as well within your family. Teamwork.
Yeah, yeah. And she has her own desires and
Mhm.
things that she wants to do in her life that have nothing to do with sports.
Yeah.
But like I said, she was, when I was leaving the house to come here, she was heading down to the river to surf.
Yeah, nice. I just walked by the river and there were a lot of surfers
A
out
lot
there. It
of
was a
surfers.
beautiful
It's
morning.
nice. But like yesterday for Father's Day, we hiked Paulina Peak and then paddleboarded at Plata, right?
Nice,
It's
yeah.
just a
Did
little.
you go to the thermals?
No,
hot
no,
springs?
we just
Yeah.
paddled around for a
Nice.
while.
It's a
but
beautiful place.
It was such a beautiful
Yeah,
place. Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
What do you think is the biggest lesson sports have taught you, John, in your 50-some years of
I mean,
playing, coaching, leading, speaking?
I'll come back to like just do hard things and stick with it.
Yeah.
I had a bunch of injuries. And so when I was 17, I had a really bad broken leg. And that was sort of when sport became my journey, like my thing. Like, oh, you know what? I need to, like, it wasn't my parents pushing or whatever, it was me. So I think that's it. Like that, how important it is, how much I love movement.
Yes.
I feel better emotionally, mentally, physically when I'm moving.
Ditto, yeah.
And so, these days, I'm a big skier, a mountain biker. I love to play golf. I love to fly fish. I love to do yoga. I don't love to do yoga. I like to do yoga. I always love how I feel after,
Right.
but I'm never one of the person like, yeah, get me to yoga as often as possible. I force myself there.
We won't tell Petite Pinson if she's listening to this.
No, she knows.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, but I just think if I think about my journey as a person, raising kids, starting businesses, writing books, going through family stuff, going through hard things, like I can always draw on, I've done this before.
Yeah.
I did this in sports. I stuck with it. I came back from this. I got my way onto this team. I played a Division I college sport. I think, yeah. And obviously I made my living coaching for a long time. So, sport has been at the center of my life forever. And, yeah, I'm a firm believer that life, it doesn't get easier. Parenting's hard. Adulting's hard. Work is hard. And so I've never shied away from doing hard things.
Yeah.
And I think that comes from a lifetime in sports, doing hard things.
No, I agree. I think one concept we haven't talked about, but for me, it has definitely been one of the biggest takeaways from leading an athletic life,
Mhm.
not a competitive life.
Mhm.
I've never been too much into competition, but I do really like to move,
Mhm.
and I've done a lot of sports, is that pushing myself, even at this age, even with relatively new sports, like, not new sports, but sports that I've begun to resume again,
Yeah.
like skiing,
Mhm.
um, which I hadn't done for years, but have been doing it since I moved to Bend. It has given me a lot of self-confidence.
Yeah.
I mean, just being able to exert myself and push myself and, like, get better times, and I do it for myself, nobody's
Yeah.
watching me, nobody's I'm not wearing any wearables, trackables, whatever.
Yeah.
It just the self-confidence piece, like, knowing that we can do it if we just try.
Love that. And I think what's really cool about that is two things. Because you're doing things that maybe you did before and stopped and doing
Yeah.
it again. As a parent, we all have this curse of knowledge. And the curse of knowledge is
Curse?
the curse of knowledge, right?
Uh-huh.
Once we know how to do something, it's very hard to remember what it was like
When we didn't.
not to know.
Yes.
And as adults who coach, who whatever, right? You have a picture of what it's supposed to look like in soccer or rugby or hockey or whatever. Um, but your kids don't. And it's very hard to connect with that. And so if you're always learning new things,
Mhm.
it's such a wonderful thing because now you remember what it's like to learn something new.
Yeah.
So a couple of years ago, I learned how to skate ski,
Uh-huh.
right? And it's like pretty good to go out there and flail for a while.
Yeah,
And you
for
think like,
sure.
oh, I'm getting this. And then
Yeah.
some 85-year-old flies by you on the uphill and you're like, I am not
Mhm.
good at this. And,
Right.
so I think that's a great thing, right out of it, like that I'm a lifelong learner. What a great
Mhm.
model for my young
Completely. Yeah.
people as well. And then I think the other point is competition, like the essence, the root of the word competare, I think it
Mhm.
is. My Latin's not great, means to strive together, right? So we've turned competition into
Together.
war,
Oh,
but
that's so
actually the
interesting.
word comes from working together to push yourself, right? So
Yeah.
you join a master swim group or a group bike ride or ski with friends, and
Yeah.
you're getting better together. Your opponent is the person working with you to help you get better at things. And what a wonderful lesson that I think is lost. And so people who are like, no, it's about winning, winning matters. I'm like, have you ever run a marathon? And people are like, well, yeah. I'm like, were you going to win? Were you going to beat all the Kenyans? They're like, well, no, of course not.
Yeah.
But you still got this great self-confidence belief because you trained for something for a long time and you ran it in 4 hours.
Yeah.
And the people who won already were home.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And it's
Mhm.
still an incredible accomplishment. And
Sure.
sport can be that for people. It doesn't always have to be about, like, did we win? It's really like, did we compete? Did we
Yeah.
give our best effort in the moment and get better and learn from this and move on? And so, yeah, if I don't run anymore, but when I first moved here, I ran some dirty half marathons and stuff. I'm never gonna win.
Yeah.
I wasn't even close,
Yeah.
but like I still felt great to train and do it, right?
Mhm.
And to do a long mountain bike ride or to, go climb and ski Broken Toe.
Yeah.
Like there's no win or loss, but
No. Mm.
and
Just
this
the
is
sake of
and I
doing
think
it.
I just want to say, sorry,
Yeah.
I'm rambling, but like
No.
we have to think as adults there's type 1 and type 2 fun. Type 1 fun is the fooling around fun that we
Mhm.
think all fun is. But type 2 fun is when you do something that's really, really hard
Uh-huh.
and you train for it and you accomplish it, like you summit a mountain or you train for a marathon or you do that. And in the moment, there's struggle, there's discomfort, there's pain, there's all these different things. And when you're done, you're like, that was awesome.
Yeah.
We should do
That
that
was
again.
yeah.
Right. And I think of that all the time as adults. When we find our exercise, we're probably doing type 2 fun. Go on a 50-mile bike ride, your legs hurt, your body hurts, you're tired, you're exhausted, and you're like,
But it feels so
what
good.
time next Saturday?
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
And I think so we want sport to be type 1 fun sometimes, but type 2 fun. So they're getting better, they're competing, and it's really hard, and they can't wait to do it again.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more. Mm. John, lastly, what's your new book on?
New
Just
book.
published the sixth or fifth book.
New book
If
is
you don't-
called Captain: The Athlete's Guide to Being an Exceptional Team Leader. The college programs we work with, coaches we talk to, they're always like, "Where have all leaders gone?" Right? And that's the way kids grow up. They don't have as much autonomy and ability to lead and solve problems and figure things out. Um, and the idea is we had a very well-known basketball player named Shane Battier. He wrote one of the endorsements for us, and he said, we have to stop thinking of leadership as a character trait and realize it's a skill. And if it's a skill, it can be taught and developed. And so we shouldn't be saying, where have all leaders gone? We should be saying, how can we train them? And so, yeah, so Dr. Jerry Lynch and I, we've done this, our third book together. And this one was, it's been, just over 2 weeks since released, and gangbusters, and was number one a few categories on Amazon, and actually like crept into like the business leadership and motivation top 20. Like all these books I read, I'm like, oh my God, like, wow, that's pretty cool. So yeah, and it's just been really good, and people are like, thank you, this is what we're looking for. And a lot of high schools now do team captains training. A lot of colleges are developing leadership groups, and so it was really fun to write.
I can imagine.
We write for kids, right? We write for like high school age. That's the 3-4 page chapters, discussion questions at the end. Don't just consume knowledge, or don't just consume information. Like, talk about it, discuss it. How does it relate? And I think my favorite part of the book, we did like a part on the qualities, a part on the responsibilities, and then the third was the challenges.
Yeah.
And we surveyed a lot of team captains, high school, college level, a lot of coaches, and said, what are the biggest challenges that your kids face? And there were very consistent ones for Gen Z: having difficult conversations in person, holding your friends accountable to the standard, being a bridge between coaches and parents, between coaches and teammates, leading when you're injured or not playing or you're disappointed. And so we sort of laid out these different challenges so that they can get some reps before the season starts as well. So if this is, you're going to face this season, let's practice it.
Sure.
So that when you face it, hey, we've been through this the first time. So it's been really fun. I love the book. I love the cover. It's just been fun getting it out to the world.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
What's next for you? You're going to continue with Changing the Game project. You're going to reach soon episode 500 on your podcast, Way of Champions.
500. We'll have a special guest coming up for that. But it's been, as the podcast has grown, and it's got a couple million downloads, and
it's amazing.
We've gotten amazing guests, and now have access to really high level people, which is super cool. Not the highest. I'm not getting Michelle Obama on anytime soon, but you know what I mean? Like, it's been really fun to talk to some incredible pro coaches and top college coaches and stuff like that. And I I love the podcasting, love that piece. I'm sure there'll be a new book someday, not anytime soon.
Okay.
I still love speaking and getting out there and working with student athlete leaders and doing coach education. I've always, when I started Changing the Game project, I wanted to build a business around my life and not my life around the business. I wanted to be able to coach my kids and watch them grow up and see their sports and do that. And so now that they're kind of a little older and doing more on their own, I'm like, well, what's next? I don't know. We'll see. I really enjoy traveling and speaking. I enjoy seeing my kids grow up and spending time with them and going to the mountains and going to the beach and doing that kind of stuff. And I really feel like I have an opportunity now to influence coaches at higher levels, top college football teams, professional teams. Our new book is getting in the hands of lots of professional and high level college teams right now, as well as high school teams and stuff. And so it's just really fun to see our influence. And we sign off our podcast and we say your influence is never neutral. And the more aware of it you are, the more powerful it is. And so I'm really excited that our influence is spreading. And yeah, who knows what comes next.
Thank you, John. I have no doubt, based on what you've shared today, that you will continue to make a positive influence and a lasting impact on both youth sports and healthy competition. Thank you so much for being part of Bend into Balance today.
Thank you so much for having me on. I truly appreciate it. This was a wonderful conversation, and best of luck with the podcast. And thanks to everyone in Bend for listening.